30 years ago, me and 6 of my friends all saw something in the sky. And nobody believed us. This was back down in Florida, down in a place called Pembroke Pines, is where I spent much of my childhood. And I had this group of friends. We always rolled together. There was about 6 of us that were together on that day. And we were having a royal rumble in my friend John's backyard. And while we were all doing elbow drops and leg drops and signature moves on each other, somewhere along the lines I got hurt and I strained my wrist. Somebody rolled over on it and I was like, oh, and I decided I was going to go sit out, and I went and sat on the condensing unit beside the house, and I was just watching them fight and play and stuff like that while I worked out my wrist and just kind of went like this. And that was when I looked up. Now, this was a clear day. Okay, it was a completely clear day. It was midday, probably a Saturday or something, because all of us were hanging. And there was hardly a cloud in the sky. There's hardly any clouds. And I was sitting there on the condensing unit, and I looked up for the first time, and I saw something. Now, it was probably about a quarter mile away, maybe half mile away. And I looked at it, and I thought it looked a little strange. I thought maybe it was like a metal party balloon, like the kind you get at Family Dollar or whatever. I thought maybe somebody had let go of a party balloon or something like that. And then I was like, maybe it's an airplane or something. I don't know. I didn't really pay any attention to it because I wanted to keep on looking at my friends and what they were doing. And I'd say probably about 30 seconds or a minute passed when I looked up at it again. And the thing was still sitting in the exact same spot as it was a minute ago. And that's when it caught my attention. I was like, oh, well, that's unusual. So I told all my friends, I was like, hey, guys, stop for a minute. And I want you to look at this. And so, the 2 friends that I know of that were there was Ralph and John. And he had a picket fence in his backyard. And, so we couldn't just run around. You had to go through the fence to get around to the front yard. But in any case, so we all started looking at this thing, and it looked like it was possibly a disc, possibly or more round, but it was kind of hard to tell because it wasn't like directly upon us. But I was like, oh man, what do you guys think this is? And they were like, oh man, do you think it's aliens? You think it's a UFO? And then they're like, it's a UFO. And I was like, yeah, I think it is. That's one of them. Because that ain't no airplane. Okay, that's not a helicopter. I was like, the thing's still sitting in the exact same place as it was when I looked at it a couple of minutes ago. It's still sitting there now, right? And once we all really started looking at it and paying attention to it, that's when this thing finally decided to start moving, right? And then it started going to the right, started going perfectly horizontally like this across the landscape. And, we noticed that it was getting ready to go behind a palm tree, and then it was going to go behind the roof of my friend John's house. So we were like, let's go up out front and, finish looking at this thing. Let's see where it goes. Let's see what it does, And we made it all the way around to the front of the house. And by the time we got there, which didn't take very long, I'm talking 10, 15 seconds, because we were fast little kids. And by the time we got around to the front of the house, that thing was gone. It had vanished. And, it wasn't anything for it to go behind. It wasn't like it was going to go behind a cloud or something. It was relatively close, and it was silver. It was a silver one. As far as I could tell, it didn't have any paint on it. And from what I could see, I didn't see any windows. I didn't see any doors or anything like that. But you had to strain a little bit to get an eye on it. But from what I could see, it just looked like a party balloon or some kind of a sphere. a metal sphere in the sky. And, you know, that was the first one that I had ever seen. And, you know, we were all talking about it and like, you know, just trying to like make sense of it because we didn't really know what we saw. You know, just, you know, it didn't really look like what they said they looked like on TV or anything like that. So, you know, we and we just confided in each other. But the thing is that later on that night, when we all ended up going back home and we all went and talked to our parents and stuff like that, and we're telling them about what was going on, you know, every single one of our parents told us that we were crazy or that we needed to get our heads checked or need to be brought to the shrink or you have too much imagination or you play too many video games, too much TV, you name it. And we all got it from all our moms and dads. And, you know, and that's just kind of the way that it went back then, you know, like people didn't really accept this as normal, you know, something that could actually happen. They thought it was all just for Star Trek or for Star Wars or for sci-fi Hollywood, you know. So, you know, and I guess they just didn't want to hear about it because, you know, the thing is that being a kid is frustrating because people don't believe you. Everybody thinks that you're imagining things, and it can be quite frustrating for young folks. One of the things that I thought was really interesting and something to take into consideration is that this thing didn't really start moving at all until we all stopped what we were doing to watch it. And I believe that it was also watching us. And in my experiences and the different UFO sightings that I've had, that was the first one that I had ever seen. And I also believe that it was watching us and what we were doing, maybe out of curiosity. But that's not the only time in my life where UFOs of some kind have either reacted to me or gotten quite close to me and reacted to me by examining me or, you know, using their lasers, okay? If you look back at one of my older videos, at my last video, then, you know, you guys will see that I also got hit in the eyes with a laser beam from one of these things. And that happened on the interstate, but I don't want to get into it. Just go back and look at one of my other videos. And if you guys would like, you know, I would appreciate it if you liked and subscribed to my videos. And you know, you can go back and look at my collection and see some of the other things that I've been saying and some of the other things that I've seen. So I will say that, you know, we don't know what we saw. We really aren't sure what we saw, but it wasn't nothing. And it certainly didn't look like anything else that we had ever seen in our lives up until that point. So that's the end of that story. And like I said, I hope you guys will like, share, and subscribe to my channel. And I hope to see you guys again in the next video. You guys take care. Have yourselves a good rest of your day, night, evening, afternoon, whatever time it is. We'll see you next time. Thank you.